Hello, and welcome to Book 3, Chapter 7, I believe, of You Should Be Reading. Uh, Today, I would like to talk to you about On a Pale Horse by Piers Anthony. Now, this is the first book in the Incarnations of Immortality series, and it is a delightful little novel. Now, I can't really describe this novel as being fantasy or as being science fiction because it has elements of both. Not only is it, not only does it have science fiction in the form of fantastic gadgets, flying cars, space travel, colonies on the moon, and I believe Mars as well, possibly other planets. And not only is there a lot of that going on, but then there's also magic involved, and demons, and Satan, and God, and all kinds of other weird, fantastical things happening in these books. There's fairies involved, but then there's also high-tech equipment and all kinds of strange things. So it's very hard to categorize this particular book. Now, The Incarnations of Immortality is all about there are seven particular incarnations over seven books, starting with this one. And it is about um, these group of powerful beings that are called the Incarnations of Immortality. There's death, there's time. So you've got death, you've got Kronos, controls time. You have war, who has basically Mars, the red sword. Um, there's also a couple of the other horsemen as well. But then you have the three beings that control fate, um, the three sisters, the Norns, as you call them, or as they call them in the books, Atropos, Lachesis, and Clotho from Greek mythology. They're in there. Then there's Gaia, who controls all of nature as well. And then you have the devil, who controls hell, and God, who controls heaven. And it ends with God and starts with death on a pale horse. Now you run into this one. You run into a man called Zane, whose life is pretty much going down the tubes. Um, he ends up trying to buy himself a stone that trying to buy a magical stone to improve his life. And the proprietor who is selling these stones ends up seeing that he has a love stone because he's thinking of buying that one, and that one reacts strongly to him. So he convinces the man that he's like, I will trade you this wealth stone that will give you wealth everlasting, because it will let you find wealth. If you use your love stone to find your love and then let me claim it. So he does this and ends up seeing this beautiful, rich woman falling for this proprietor of the store that saved her. Uh, and he gets this wealth stone instead. And the wealth stone finds him the nearest source of wealth, free wealth, which is a pittance on the road, and then is slowly dying. So he realizes he's made this big mistake and ends up going home. His life is in shambles, so he decides to kill himself. Uh, and he puts the gun to his head and is about to pull the trigger when the door opens, and he kind of freezes, wondering, should I go through with it or should I wait until after I'm interrupted? What's going on? And because he freezes in that moment, he sees the one who comes in the door, and the one who comes in the door is Death himself, a skeleton in a long black robe. And the skeleton turns and faces him, and Zane, in his fear and being uh, shocked at seeing the specter of death, um, immediately reacts and points the gun at Death and shoots and kills Death because all of the incarnations are actually ordinary people. They have their own abilities and their own special tools because they take on the office. And because he kills death, that means that he then must take on the role of death, because that is how death, the office of death, is changed by killing your predecessor. So he becomes death. And almost immediately, because he's learning the ropes, he's got a wonderful white, pale white car that he drives around. He's got tools of the trade, his cloak, which, as long as it is between him and whatever it is that is trying to hurt him, it protects him from pretty much anything. Um, so he ends up going on. He's got his scythe, of course. He's got these stones that let him figure out which souls go to heaven and which souls go to hell. And he has his own little castle off in this weird little purgatory where the television shows him only the news that pertains to him, which is quite bizarre. And he immediately gets embroiled in a plot with Satan, the devil himself. And the devil himself has managed to maneuver him to that he has to kill a woman named Luna, a woman who he falls in love with. So he has to kill her in order to stop, what is it here? Yes, forging a trap. The Prince of Evil was forging a trap in which Zane must act to destroy Luna, the woman he loved. And the only way to defeat the Father of Lies was unthinkable, but he had no other solution. That's what the back of the book says. But that's what it does, and it comes into this whole thing where he runs into conflict with the other incarnations of immortality and meets them. And as the other books go on, each one delves into that particular aspect of that incarnation, leading up to the final one of God. And it's all rather interesting. It's a whole world, well thought out, well put together, especially when you read all of them. And as it says right here on the front, as you can see, an extraordinary novel by Piers Anthony. And that is a perfect description for this particular story, for this particular novel, and for all of them in the Incarnations of Immortality. Piers Anthony is an author that, if any of you out there have not read him, you definitely should, because he is worth it. Not only for the little subtle touches of amusement that he puts in it, but the strangely fantastical worlds that he crafts and seems to make real on the pages before you. A world in which a flying car and a flying carpet can exist side by side and is believable. And that alone makes it worth the price of admission for this particular one. So this week you should be reading On a Pale Horse by Piers Anthony. So if you like my videos, if you like this book, if you like what I'm doing here, please give that like button a tap. If you haven't subscribed, give that button a tap as well, so you can be kept informed when I release new videos. Usually I do them weekly. It might not be all of them, but I usually try and get 2 or 3 videos out per week. So yeah, give that subscribe button a tap. If you haven't already, I'd greatly appreciate it. Fire off a comment in the videos. Tell me if you like the Incarnations of Immortality, if you've read them, what you think about them. Get a little discussion going. I'd like to hear from you. So until next time, you all take care, and I will see you around.